Very excited to get into this video today. The Trump indictment, the no-shock indictment with a mega error. Left smack dab right in the middle of it. That's what we're going to cover today. I know you're not shocked that this occurred immediately after Devon Archer's bombshell testimony on the Biden family. Either are we. We expected nothing less because there's been a history of this. I don't know if you saw Kudlow's report on, the charges against the Bidens and then the charges against Trump. March 16th, Comer reveals the Biden family payments. And on April 4th, Trump is indicted in New York. June 8th, the GOP views the Biden FBI bribery form. On June 9th, Trump in the classified documents indictment drops. July 26th, Hunter's plea deal falls apart. On July 27th, Trump is charged in additional filings leading up to the indictment, which happens not on July 31st when Devon Archer testifies. No, the next day on August 1st. So there's been a track record of this, hasn't there? So what are we looking? Don't worry, I'm not going to cover a lot of what you've already heard. We're going to stay away from that. Federal charges against Trump: conspiracy to defraud the U.S., conspiracy to obstruct official proceedings, obstruction of official proceedings, conspiracy against rights. That's where we stand. Here is the case. We're going to get there quickly because there's one part of this they forgot to take out. They just, oops. We're going to cover that because is it over before it began? Well, when I cover what I'm going to cover for you today, I can't wait to see your answer. My name is Justus Knight. Can't thank you enough for being here. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do. You have one means of supporting me here via the membership platform I put up. Other means is over at Restricted Republic. That's where we want you. That's what makes a difference. That is news unfiltered, uncensored, no commercials, no interruptions, beholden to no one but ourselves, Lisa Haven, me, and our audience. News the way it was meant to sound, referenced and researched at all times. The story we're going to cover later today. I wish we could discuss a portion of it, but we can't. That's why we created a Restricted Republic, so we can adhere to the rules of other platforms, but yet still exist. And that's what we do at restrictedrepublic.com. Use discount code Independence, $4 a month. Independence, monthly checkout. Independence, $4 a month for 2 years, plus 14 days for free. That's less than a cup of coffee, folks. Seriously. And the information you're going to get is so valuable, so unfiltered, so uncensored, you'll find it nowhere else but there. But let's get back to this amazing, obnoxious storyline that just requires some basic reading. Here's page 1. You don't have to go far in the document to find where it falls apart. Beyond the charges at page 2. Number 3. We'll highlight it. The defendant had a right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election and even to claim falsely that there had been outcome determinative fraud during the election and that he had won. He was also entitled to formally challenge the result of the election through lawful and appropriate means, such as by seeking recounts or audits of the popular vote in states or filing lawsuits challenging ballots and procedures. Indeed, in many cases, the defendant did indeed pursue these methods of contesting the election results. His efforts to change the outcome in any state through recounts, audits, or legal challenges were uniformly unsuccessful. Not necessarily relevant to this case, but the statement in itself is very relevant. So that would have a lot of you scratching your head, and I hope it does. The defendant had the right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election and even to claim falsely that there had been outcome determinative fraud during the election. Fairly simple statement. Let's back up 1 page. The whole case boils into 2 pages. It's actually laughable. Despite having lost, the defendant was determined to remain in power. So for more than 2 months following Election Day on November 3rd, 2020, the defendant spread lies that there had been outcome determinative fraud in the election that he had actually won. These claims were false, and the defendant knew they were false. At this point, you could stop reading the document. The prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Trump didn't believe he won. Now, if you've been following Trump and the co-defendants in this case, you'll know that's going to be a really steep hill to climb. And the purpose of the conspiracy, we already know. Why this took so long to file, why Merrick Garland comes out later and says this is one of the biggest legal efforts in U.S. history is ridiculous. There's nothing in this that nobody didn't know a long time ago, which is having many question timing. Even the co-conspirators, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which are unnamed. Well, kind of. Because the Department of Justice, again, has leaked out information. CNN proves it.
Conspirators who are unnamed in this indictment. We are prepared to identify 5 of them at this point based on reporting from our CNN team. I think most notably the first unindicted co-conspirator, who again is unnamed in this indictment, we have identified as Rudy Giuliani.
The unnamed co-conspirators that nobody knows, we are declaring one of them. Actually, they go ahead and declare almost all of them. Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Sidney Powell, Jeffrey Clark, Kenneth Chesebro. I pretty much know who co-conspirator 6 is, but because it's unnamed, I shouldn't be able to name it. But this is how the Department of Justice has been working, the absolute debacle of the Department of Justice. Yeah, I'm not at a loss for words. I never am. I did have some fun, though. Poked a little bit of fun at this, because if you noticed, like we did, when Jack Smith walked in, and I'm going to just put this in screen here, yeah, there was the starting scene, and here was the scene when he walked in. It appears it wasn't met with a lot of fanfare, now was it? Of course it wasn't, because everybody knows it's trumped up. However, beyond that, I wanted to make sure I was right. I wanted to make sure that maybe this little old brain of mine wasn't functioning and it wasn't boiling into as simple of a little mistake as it was. The mistake to actually believe that Trump doesn't believe this, that he's been lying to everyone the entire time. So I sought a secondary opinion, like you always should, and I found it.
The government has the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that subjectively Donald Trump actually believed that he lost the election and acted contrary to that belief. Now, I read the indictment very carefully. There is no smoking gun. There is no one who is credibly prepared to testify that Donald Trump said to him, I know personally I lost the election.
So, the case in any legitimate court would be over before it began. Yes, folks, it's that simple. Hence why there wasn't much fanfare. Hence why even liberal publication Trump is gaslighting himself and really thinks he won the election. Or Huffington Post, Michael Cohen says Trump has actually convinced himself he won the election, would state that Trump doesn't believe he lost the election. I love when things are that simple, that easy, that clean. I don't need to listen to Jack Smith pontificate about things that weren't relevant to the case, and that's exactly what he did. He talked about things that Trump isn't charged with. Free speech has been indicted. Read this section of the indictment. It acknowledges that Trump has the right to say, even falsely, the results were fraudulent and claim he won the election. That's protected by the First Amendment. But the indictment says he can't lie about election fraud. So they must prove Trump didn't believe what he was saying. Good luck with that. The case is over before it began in any legitimate courtroom. I know that will be called into question, obviously. However, if there is one thing I had to attempt to prosecute Trump on, it is trying to prove that he doesn't believe what he's saying. Agree with him or not. This is the part where I look forward to your opinion. I love y'all. Couldn't wait to bring it to you. Didn't want you all to be doom and gloom today because there's really very little reason to be at this point. Don't let the distraction overtake the larger stories. Man, it's just all a matter of timing, isn't it? Until next time, I love you all. Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.